All right, welcome everyone. Yes, you can make some noise. Yes, welcome to Vital Voices. My name is Corey Rosen. What is your name? I didn't hear you. What's your first name? 1, 2, 3. There we go. We just made the room a little bit smaller. This is a storytelling show in the style of the Moth. Is anybody familiar with the Moth? Yes. So I host that show in San Francisco and Berkeley, if anybody's ever been to one of our live shows. And what we do at the Moth is we invite people to come up on stages and tell true stories. Stories inspired by their lives, but also inspired by themes, things that are happening, motifs or modes that they're going through. There's something really powerful about true stories and true storytelling. And one of the things that I like and appreciate the most about storytelling as an art form and as a performance art is that it's not just for actors. It's not just for, professional presenters. It's really for everyone. It's who we all are. It's what we are all doing in our lives, in our jobs. Who out there has to do some storytelling to some degree in their jobs, their lives, in any way? I'm amazed that all of you didn't have your hands raised, but in actuality, you all are. You're all telling stories all the time, whether it's just explaining to somebody something that happened to you, or whether it's helping somebody else understand their where they are, what's going on with them in their lives. It's how we parent, it's how we coach, and it's how we live. It's how we doctor. So Vital Voices was designed and developed to be a way of really celebrating and kind of capping this weekend's experience that you're all going through. By the way, you all having a good time this weekend so far? Yeah. Give it up for all of the people who organized this weekend, because it's taken a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of love to put this together. And so what this event is really intended to be is a celebration of you and the journeys that you've been on, and also the journeys that people who are current, students, people that are part of candidates, part of this program right now. So you're going to get to hear some of their stories, their true stories. It might be their trials and tribulations. It might be their successes. It might be things that they have learned along the way. And the whole concept here is to celebrate those and to resonate those and to let them speak their lives and their truths in ways that are connecting for all of us to experience. So let's hear it for the storytellers who are about to take the stage, because I can be honest, some of them are a little bit nervous. I have been working with them for about 3 weeks. We've been practicing their stories, listening to them, helping them kind of like think about what they want to share, what they want to talk about, and helping to kind of craft and hone them. And some of them are experts at this. Some of them are a little bit nervous, but we're going to love on all of them, right? We're going to give them joy and love, and if they get nervous, we're going to be here to support them. This is not a comedy show. This is not a talent show. There's no judges, so no judging out there. Anybody? Yeah, no judging. And what we have in front of us is six students in different parts, different disciplines representing the school. And they're each going to tell stories that will be about 5 minutes in length, give or take. There's not going to be a clock. There's not going to be a bell to tell them to get off the stage if they've gone over time. But they're all going to be about that length of story. And afterward, there's going to be a party out in the lobby that we can all go connect with each other, but also connect with the storytellers, or maybe just tell your own stories. So are you engaged? Are you ready? Are you excited to hear some stories? I know that I am. And I've heard all of these stories, and I can tell you that they're all lovely, delightful human beings. And we're going to bring up the first one. Are you ready, Kim? Okay, so please welcome your first storyteller, Kim Madlingbayan.
Happy weekend, everyone. Well, no pressure, right? I'm the first one. Whew. I see some familiar faces in the crowd, and I went to say hi to them. But hello, everyone. My name is Kim. That's Dr. Chun. Okay, just take a deep breath. Hi, everyone. Well, my name is Kim. I'm a pharmacy candidate here at our lovely campus, the University of California, San Francisco, in the School of Pharmacy. But before any of this, before the degrees, the research, the hospital, the groundbreaking innovation that UCSF has been doing for all of us, I want to take a step back. Back when I was young, I was born in the Philippines in a small town called Rosario, Cavite, which is a little bit southern of Manila. Growing up in a home full of siblings, there are 5 of us. I'm the youngest. Raised by a single dad. I promised myself not to cry because whenever I speak about him, I always cry. Life wasn't simple, but I remember it in a beautiful way. I remember how much was being carried behind the scenes. My clearest memory is my dad, like what I said. His name is Romeo. I know. I just started this speech, and it sounds like the character that I'm talking about is someone's written by William Shakespeare, but his name is Romeo, Laksamana Madangbayan. Where is the camera? My dad is probably listening. Hi! But I just want to tell his story. Every night, what I remember is he would wake up at midnight. He would get up while we were still asleep, and he would get ready, and he would make his way to the other side of the province to go to the fish market. That's our business. He would spend about 12 hours there to make sure we have enough for the day. And then after that, he'd come home around a few hours past noon, and he would cook for us. Oh my God, his caldereta, oh my God, that's a beef stew I highly recommend. Dr. Kokohova, do you know what caldereta is? Of course. We love a caldereta. And after that, he would sleep throughout the afternoon. He would wake up again for dinner, and then he would cook for us, and he would go back to sleep again, and then he'd do it again, over and over. Did I mention over and over? Over and over. No days off, no complaints, just a man who really stood up for his family and fight for life. When I was young, I didn't really understood it, but I'm telling you guys a story, so I remember it. I felt it. I felt what it's meant like. I felt what it's meant to be taken care of by someone who truly loved his family. Truly meant for someone to work as hard. I felt what it meant to be surrounded by family who depended on each other. After that, we moved here in the States. I think this is the time where I can use this card. It's my English is my second language card. When we moved here, everything was different. But those values did not change. After high school, I wanted to go to university. I got many acceptance. But at the time, financial issue was the thing. You know, the language is new. I have to adopt the language and the education. When we moved here, we lived in a apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. There were 6 of us. That is crowded. But at the same time, that's how we grew up, so it felt like normal. And I love every bit of it. When I got accepted to many universities after high school, I even got into Ivy Leagues. What? But I didn't go. But it's okay, just because I knew there was a different path for me. I went to a career college just across the bay, and I got my pharmacy tech license. This was after high school. I needed to be strategic with my plans, just because we didn't have the financial means for me to go to university right away. After that, I got my pharmacy tech license. I work in the community pharmacy, and then I went to community college right away. I balanced school with long shifts, learning what healthcare looks like outside of textbook. I work with patients on a daily. I talk to them every day. I refill this prescription. I compounded medication. And for many of you, you know how long it takes to get a prior authorization approved. I showed up for people in small moments that actually meant a lot. I realized that healthcare isn't just about treatment, but it's about trust and being present. But honestly, that wasn't the original plan. I wanted to be a pop star. Well, clearly that didn't work out. But I found myself in the pharmacy profession that I truly adore and appreciate. From time to time, I would volunteer to community food banks and food drives that I still do up to this day. There's a food bank down the street. You guys should try it. Because growing up in the Philippines, I saw something that I couldn't ignore. Living in a coastal area, I saw my friends and my classmates having problems to put food in their tables. People sitting next to me, working just as hard, are carrying a burden that people doesn't see. It reminded me that healthcare doesn't start in the hospital, but it starts in the community. Now at UCSF, I'm stepping into a more and more complex setting. But the core is still the same. It's still about people. Each one of us. No matter where I go, my goals remain the same. That's what shaped me. That's where I started. And honestly, that's what grounded me. And now, I still think about my dad, working at midnight, doing the work, doing everything he could to fight for his family. Not because it was easy, but because it mattered. I think that's what my journey has been about. Not have everything figured out, but continuing to show up step by step. So honestly, if I can go back all over again after everything I did, maybe one day I'll give the pop star another shot. But for now, I'm here. I'm building something that hopefully gives back to the same community that once gave everything to me. Thank you.
All right, now keep it going for Kim. Kim Modeling-Bayan, thank you so much. That was delightful and beautiful and heartwarming. And I think we all kind of might want to hear her sing later, right? Yeah, she's a really good singer. Okay, well, let's keep the stories going. We have our next storyteller coming right up. So please make some noise for Jay Chabra.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Jay, and I am a third-year medical student here at UCSF. And, you know, one of my friends actually recently, they just got accepted to medical school, and they asked me, they're like, what was the best thing that kind of prepared you to start medical school? And I didn't expect to have this really strange answer when I thought about it, because my mind immediately went to this pizza shop. I was 16 years old. It was one of my first jobs. And by the way, working at a pizza place in high school is the best job you can have. You get free pizza. You can bring it home to your family. They love it. Anyway, let me set the stage. So I'd walk in, I'd see my manager, Billy. He's like 24 at the time, the kindest, funniest guy you'll ever meet. You'd never know by talking to him that his senior prank, when he went to the same high school that I did, was writing on the gym locker room wall with his own feces, seniors 2K14. That was who my manager was at Hungry Howie's. Behind him was Seth, who was about 35 at the time, who I came to find out was 2 years sober from what he described as addicted to everything under the sun. And he was also the most incredible drummer that you'd ever meet. He'd bring his drumsticks, and when it was slow some days in the back, he'd be jamming on like pizza boxes, bags of flour, the giant metal mixer that we had. And it just sounded like the most incredible like thing ever. To the left of him at the dishes was Dylan, and he and Billy had this donut truck dream. They wanted to get this food truck and then go to big cities and travel and just sell donuts. And I was 16 years old, and I was in the middle of all of it, and I'm like, how do I communicate with these people? They're so different from me, you know? But I feel like I'd been kind of preparing for that almost my whole life, because I grew up like Kim. I had the middle of 5 siblings. So I had a brother who was 10 years older than me. I had a brother who was 10 years younger than me. And so I constantly felt like I was just in between different decades of conversations. 1 second digging like in the dirt with my little brother, and the next second like, listening to 90s punk rock with my older brother. And so I kind of learned in that like chaotic household to like adjust myself, to adjust my humor, to adjust my language, to adjust how I enter somebody else's world. And so when I was at that pizza shop, I was kind of practicing something I didn't really have words for yet. Just getting to know somebody, listening, asking the like questions, probing, and like, you know, people end up opening up to you, and just saying whatever, talking to you. And, you know, and these people that felt so confusing to me at first, you know, I began to understand them more. I began to, you know, kind of, they became more legible to me. To the point where like I'd be talking to Seth about our favorite music and concerts, and then he'd be talking about how music helped carry him through his addiction. I'd be talking to Billy about how like, about his donut truck dreams and like, you know, joking with him, and he'd tell me about all of his other hopes and dreams about wanting to be like a salesman, an entrepreneur, how in his ideal life, he'd be on a boat in the middle of the water with cigarettes and a hot wife. And they just tell me these things. And, you know, these people, they became more like legible to me. When people started opening up to me, you know, when you just sat there and listened. And so, you know, eventually I had to leave and go to college. And when I went to college, I was kind of on my own to pay for everything. And so one of the things I did, which stemmed from my mom used to sit with us when we were kids, and she would draw our favorite Pokemon, like me and my siblings. And so I got really into drawing when I was younger, and that kind of evolved. And now I like doing charcoal portraits of people as they sit in front of me. And so I used to do that in college to help pay for rent. And there is something very, very deeply awkward about sitting across from somebody for like an hour and just staring at their face, some stranger. Because it's just a random person, and you're standing there long enough to notice every asymmetry in their face, their smile, the way one eyebrow moves above the other. And it's also interesting to see how people react to that. And like, you just sit there in that silence, and eventually they just start telling you everything. They start talking to you about, you know, where they're from, their new haircut they just got, who they're trying to impress, all the stuff that they're like worried about. They just start telling you these things. And sometimes they don't say anything at all. And even then you learn something from their micro expressions, the way they change their tone, the way they sit in the silence, and how they react to all of it. And so I learned a lot from just sitting across from people in those conversations. Yeah. And then so at that, and then I think about now, where I come here and now I've just started rotations, and I just finished my surgery rotation. Now I'm going through and I'm seeing patients and I'm talking to them. And I'm thinking about all these things. You know, you think my answer to what prepared you best for medical school would be, oh, taking the MCAT, going and studying all the scientific knowledge that we did, this specific science class. It wasn't any of that. It was just talking to people. It was learning how to interact with people, learning how to jump into somebody else's world and meet them where they are. That was the best predictor of like how well you can go and get a patient to kind of open up to you, trust you, and talk to you. And that's what I've noticed now. And like everything subsequently that I've done before then to prepare for medical school, when I was like an EMT, when I'd volunteer for hospice, and like now here seeing patients, I still think back about like the echoes of my family. Like when I'm talking to these patients, I think about Seth. I think about all these people I've met from working at the pizza shop and all these other places. And so I think that, it's the connection that we bring is the most important thing you can do to prepare for this, for a challenge that is medical school. When you're going through all this stuff, it's just to kind of slow down and understand that you're talking to like a real person who has their own stories, who has their own entire life, scenarios, and kind of jump into their shoes and just like let them tell you what they need to tell you. So how I answered that question to my friend who asked me, what prepared you best for medical school? It was 3 things. It was living in a very chaotic household as the middle child of 5. I was working at a pizza place, and it was doing charcoal portraits with strangers. And that was my story. Thank you.
All right. Keep it going for Jay Chabra, everybody. Yeah. Fantastic. Does anybody have a similar experience in their lives? Anybody have a job that you had that ended up helping you in your lives? Yeah. By show of hands, somebody have one? Yeah. Over there. What was yours? Second row.
Summer camp counselor.
Summer camp counselor. Yes. Beautiful. One more. Did you have your hand up too? No? You? No? Oh, you, yes.
Working at a children's home for severely disabled children.
Working with disabled children. Fabulous. All right. Are you guys ready for some more stories? Amazing. Let us waste no time then. And please welcome to the stage your next storyteller, Nisha Nadkarni, everybody.
Thank you for adjusting that. Thank you for adjusting the mic for me. I don't have the height my other friends have. Hi, my name is Nisha, and I'm in the psychiatric and mental health nurse practitioner track at UCSF. And I was once a very weird kid, and not weird in like the eat dirt or sniff glue kind of way, but weird where I actually asked my teachers several times if I could please give a voluntary presentation on something really important to me. And that presentation was on the genocide in Darfur, Sudan. And I don't think as a 12-year-old I really knew what I was talking about. I just knew that I really cared about people suffering in other places, and I wanted everyone to care the way I cared. And when I didn't get quite the reception I intended, I guilt-tripped my mom into donating to Doctors Without Borders. And while I was on their website, there was a list of all of the careers that they most needed, the professions they most needed. And at the top of the list, there were anesthesiologists and CRNAs. And I thought, what is a CRNA? And it turns out they're a certified registered nurse anesthetist. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do that. That sounds great, I'll be one of those. And I actually got pretty far. I got into a program where I was already accepted. I just had to do a year of critical care experience and I could just go back. Except I didn't go, and you might be wondering, why are you here instead of a random OR somewhere? Well, what happened is I was called to go back in the summer of 2021. And my year of critical care experience consisted of watching people die over and over again in the ICU from COVID. And I was not ready, personally or professionally, to leave my entire support system here, go back across the country for a 3-year, extremely academically rigorous program. And so I gave up that position. And I decided to stay in the ICU, which was very difficult. I was extremely depressed, I was very lonely, and the things that I remember the most were the times where that eased a little bit. And it was mostly from the connection that I had with my coworkers and with my patients. And there was one patient in particular whom I was very close with at the time, and she was stuck in the hospital. She was likely never going to go home, and we would talk a lot about what she missed. And she mostly missed very mundane things like hanging out and feeling sunshine, and her favorite food, which were tacos. So when her birthday rolled around and she was still in the hospital, I DoorDashed her tacos to her hospital room. And I heard that she really liked them from the nurse, but unfortunately, I never got to talk to her again because I went into work the next day and she had taken a turn for the worse. She was very confused. I was getting calls from the lab saying, critical this, critical that, and then she started vomiting blood. And she passed that day. And I realized that nursing was kind of like this soft skill. Not soft that it's easy, but soft that it's immeasurable. It depends on things like empathy and compassion and the ability to just sit with someone as they're having the absolute worst experience of their life. And that changed how I felt about my work. I decided to stay, and I decided later to go into psychiatry. Because whether I was in critical care or anesthesia or psychiatry, I was following the same thread of what does it mean to care for someone when they are at their most vulnerable. And I don't know all of the forms that will take. I mean, clearly I've already changed my mind once, and I might do something different for my career later too, but I know that I'm going to keep choosing to follow this thread, this idea, because I was once this weird kid who cared so much about people I didn't even know that it determined my entire life's path, and I'm still that person today. Thank you.
Keep it going for Nisha Nakhtarni, everybody. Wonderful. All right, we've got 3 more storytellers coming up, and I am delighted in all of them. Just everything that we were doing throughout the process of practicing and listening to their stories touched and moved me in ways that were often just full of surprises. Like even the stories you've heard so far are twists and turns, things that we wouldn't know about someone unless we asked them their story. And finding out other people's stories is kind of the nicest gift that you can give to someone. It's just sharing a little piece of yourself. So let's keep this going. And please welcome to the stage, Samuel Carson.
Hello, my name is Samuel Carson. I am a third-year DPT student here at UCSF, and if everything goes correctly, I graduate in about 4 weeks. And I kind of want to talk about how I made it to this place, how I made it standing here in front of you on the stage today. And it's not really what people expect. The reason I'm here today is actually based on a day that is so picture perfectly clear in my brain. It was a mid-October day in 2004. I was in 7th grade, I was 12 years old, and I had just gotten to school. Went to my English homeroom class, and I remember this so clearly. I came over to my desk, and you know like the school desks where like the seat's attached to the desk? Well, I'm trying to sit down in the seat. I've got my coat on because it's a Michigan like fall winter thing happening, and my backpack, and I'm like just trying to get my seat, right? And so as I'm doing that, I suddenly was like, oh my gosh, I think I forgot to do my homework. Ooh, Miss Chapman's gonna be mad. All of that was erased pretty quickly when out of the periphery, I see a blur of a person coming in. And it was my best friend, Sierra. Sierra comes running in, backpack hanging off her shoulder. She is like disheveled, but it's pretty typical for her. It's okay. She's quite disheveled, and she's got her purple Converse on with the rainbow laces. And what I noticed is she's holding her Discman like this. And I was like, oh, the anti-skip must have stopped working. Before I could even register what was happening, Sarah was right in front of me, standing in front of my desk. And as I look up, I'm like, what's going on? She pops headphones right on my head and hits play. I heard the opening sequence to Green Day's American Idiot, and I'm pretty sure my brain chemistry changed in that moment. And so did the trajectory of my life. Love them or hate them, Green Day introduced me to the Bay Area punk scene. I got to listen to people that were expressing themselves in very gritty ways, people that felt very unheard and underrepresented, and they got to be free and creative and express themselves. Well, this gave a very young, closeted trans kid from the Midwest hope and a dream. And in that moment, I knew I was going to move to San Francisco. So let's fast forward. 16 years later, I am 9 years into my paramedic career. My dreams look a little bit different. And I loved that job. I still love that job. But the pandemic was raging, and I got to a point where after seeing every single person die, I felt part of me also kind of die. And that was 9 years of build up to that. And so I had to take my step back. I took the opportunity of the pandemic to be able to self-reflect a little bit. And what I realized was I was suddenly face to face with this identity that I had been holding in and suppressing my entire life. And now I had to kind of reckon with that and really figure out, like, who am I? What do I want out of my life in this space? And that's really scary. It's really scary, especially during the pandemic, when you can't just go out and talk to people about these things. And, I'm still in the Midwest. I don't know that the resources are there. I have no clue what to do about this, except now I'm just sitting with it. In my bag chair in my driveway, watching the neighbors go by, because that's the only way we could interact. And so becoming Samuel has been the hardest thing I think I have ever done. Transitioning is not for the faint of heart. It is not something that is done lightly. It is not something that people just wake up and want to do. And yet, I couldn't stop being who I was. I couldn't suppress it anymore because I knew that I have this opportunity to be a new person, to be my authentic person. And so I realized that by suppressing so much of that for so long, that I'd also kind of killed my dream of living here. A couple months into transitioning, I remember just suddenly the world became very large. I had thought that I was going to work as a paramedic for the rest of my life, probably die in my ambulance, like, it's fine, and that was just going to be it, right? And suddenly that wasn't the case. My world was expanded, but also my world became very, very small in the space I was in. I was the only trans person that most people knew in my community. I didn't have support. I didn't have other trans people that I could lean on and understand, like, what the heck's happening, because second puberty at 26 is wild. It's a little crazy. So suddenly I am thrust into this role of having to be educator for everybody around me. And I felt such immense pressure to be the perfect trans person because I knew that somebody's interaction with me might be the only interaction they have with a trans person. That is heavy. That is really heavy, especially when I'm just trying to figure out, like, what am I feeling? What is happening? Like, I'm all over the place. I feel like I'm in 7th grade again. And I realized I just wanted to defend myself. I wanted to kind of put everything back up and say, like, hold on, if I can have all of the research, if I can read everything I can, if I can learn everything I can about transitioning, this will keep me safe. And so with all the time I had, I did so many deep dives into every aspect of transitioning because I just wanted to know. And I realized, I was like, I want to know because not just for myself, but in case somebody else feels like they can come out or be themselves because I set an example for them. And that's how I kind of discovered UCSF. So UCSF came up in almost every journal publication that I found. It came up in the guidelines. It came up in every aspect. And I honestly didn't know about UCSF. It's not quite as widely known as maybe we like to think it is. And that's okay. That's okay. But I realized, I was like, wait, this place is doing the research. This place is writing the guidelines. And this place is in the city that had actually been quite a big beacon of hope for me for a very, very long time. And in that moment, I knew that I needed to be here, and I knew that I was going to live in San Francisco. Well, I came here expecting that I just get to learn about myself and my community, and everybody was going to be knowledgeable about this, and San Francisco is going to be amazing. Bless my little idealistic soul, and that's okay. That's okay. You know, we all have to have some reality checks sometimes. But being here, it's not perfect. I'm still educating my peers. I'm still advocating for trans healthcare to be included in core curricula because, you know, we are actually way more than our hormones. Like, we have other medical problems too. And yet, I get to be in the presence of this institution, of the people who created a pathway for me to continue living. The people that put their heart and soul into these things, who put themselves out there and open to scrutiny, especially given what is happening in this country right now. And yet they did it very openly, and they shared it across the board. And while things aren't perfect, that's okay. So as I ride the bus to my clinic at 6 a.m., kind of questioning my decisions at that moment, you know, I kind of think about it. I'm not the crust punk that I thought I was going to be. I've traded in my pink mohawk for a Patagonia. Still punk, I tell myself. Green Day's blasting through my headphones, and I get to sit there and think back to that really scared 12-year-old who didn't really think we'd be alive right now. And I get to look at them, and I just get to say, like, look at this life that we've built. We made it. Thank you.
Okay. Keep it going for Samuel Carson. Fabulous. All right, let's keep it going. We have two more storytellers, and our next one is what can I say about you, Beatty? It's just been a joy and delight with all of our storytellers, and in Beatty's case, I was particularly biased because my dad's a dentist, so I had this thing. Whenever there's dentistry shows up in their stories, that gives me a special little nod of recognition. So. So here she comes. Please welcome Beatty Birbo.
Little height adjustment. Hi, everyone. My peers tell amazing stories, so I have some big shoes to fill. But looking at you all look so kind, so I'm a little less nervous now. My name is Beatty. I am a fourth-year dental student at UCSF. Like Sam, hopefully I graduate in about a month, if all goes well. And I also would like to tell my story of how I made my way to UCSF. So I was raised by two very hardworking Ethiopian immigrants. They both came here fleeing from a corrupt regime in hopes of building a better life for me and my sisters. My dad and my mom are extremely hardworking human beings. My dad had started doing a lot of online trainings to transfer a degree he had back home. And my mom picked up on a couple of random jobs, with one of them being working at a movie theater. And there's a little story behind this. But she worked at the movie theater. I always remembered her smelling like butter popcorn, which in theory, it was good as a child, but in theory, it probably was not a good smell to have. And she came home one day and she told us a story about how someone asked for a Dr. Pepper. And she went to her boss because she was so confused and she was like, someone needs a doctor. She was very alarmed. And in theory now, I laugh at this story, but she actually came home feeling really humiliated and really sad that she felt like she messed up on her job, which was her first job, when she really was just trying to assimilate to America and also assimilate to maintaining a job that could support us as a family. So I remember that night, I think I was about 5 or 6, but I sat with her and we just went through some sodas online. I was like, yeah, so Fanta's usually orange, I guess. And ironically, I'm a working towards being a dentist now. So I learned a lot about a soda as a child, but and I remember this being something that I didn't really think about until I grew up, but something that stuck with me because it was helping someone understand something that seems simple in theory, but is probably really complex and really stressful to like look for a certain soda when someone's asking for it at a movie theater. And going towards my dad, he took us to school a lot. He was the pickup and the drop off. And I remember him having us go to Safeway really early in the morning, or maybe it was Albertsons. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. But, and I remember he would have us get donuts for breakfast and Lunchables for lunch. And that didn't make my mom very happy, but it was the means that he could support us by at the time. And I remember us having to have a couple of fillings as a child. And I think it might have had to do with the donuts, but it was something that my parents felt like they were doing wrong. They were upset that there was something wrong with our teeth because they didn't have cavities and they didn't really know how to navigate that. And I remember when we would go to the dental office, they were just really scared and a little intimidated by a dentist. And similarly in a medical office, they also were very intimidated. And I remember one time when I came to the hospital with my mom, one of the doctors asked for her home address and she was just a little confused and she stared at me and I was like, oh, I think that means our house, right? Because home? And she was like, oh, yes. So a lot of these experiences I'm sharing were just little moments where I felt like I was translating and I was breaking down concepts that may be simple or maybe things that people overlooked as probably complex to some people. And I really just spent a lot of my childhood helping my parents and translating for them and making them feel safe in environments that were important for us as human beings to have our dental care and our medical care taken care of. And I think from a very early age, I became really passionate about having people find their sense of belonging in a healthcare setting. So with that, I started exploring healthcare. I always wanted to take care of people. I remember finding my passion for dentistry and being really excited to pursue that. But that was also another challenge. I didn't know many dentists. I am a first-generation student, and I felt kind of discouraged to pursue dentistry. I felt like in college when I was in these groups of people that also wanted to do dentistry, a lot of them already kind of knew a lot about the field. They might have had parents in the field. And I also just entered a lot of spaces where I didn't see many people look like me in dentistry. And I remember one time coming home and just searching how many dentists are Black in this country. And I remember at the time it was, I think, about 2.8, 2.9. Now it's 3.2. So there's some improvement. But I just remember being shocked by that number and kind of battling these constant episodes of imposter syndrome. And it wasn't until a moment where I just started kind of cold emailing dentists around the area that were African American. And one of them happened to be a faculty at UCSF. His name is Dr. George Taylor. And I met with him, and I was so surprised that he just opened up his office to me and met me for an hour as a pre-dental student in college. And I remember that day being so pivotal in my journey towards dentistry because he shared his story, and I found a lot of similarities within that. And I also just finally felt like someone saw my struggles and my internal battles and saw me for who I was and my potential in the field of dentistry. And from there, he connected me with some Black students at UCSF that were a part of the Student National Dental Association. And through that, I just felt a drive to pursue this field. I knew I wanted to be a bridge between communities that didn't really know what oral health was, how it connected to their overall health. And I wanted to translate something that could be really intimidating, seems really is inaccessible to a lot of communities, and help bridge that gap. So I came to UCSF and I just felt so passionate to give back to the community. I started entering these leadership roles. I felt like I used to be the shyest kid in the room, and I really learned to find my voice in dental school because I felt like I had a community that supported me, and I had a community of like-minded individuals that wanted to give back to communities in San Francisco that are underserved and were passionate but passionate about my passions and giving back to my community and helping them connect with dentistry. So I, over time, worked my way up and became president of the Student National Dental Association. And I just started expanding outreach efforts to reach different communities, to bring them in as new patients into our clinic, and to just help the underserved and to help them understand dentistry. Because dentistry can be really intimidating. It can feel weird. It's very intimate being in someone's mouth. Sometimes you just say a bunch of things and it flies over their head. And I just sit there with the patients that I do see now, and I make sure that they do understand things and that they know exactly what their treatment plan is and that they feel like they have autonomy over their treatment. And I think that that is something that isn't very easy to learn or understand, but it's something that I felt like I learned well through UCSF and through my own upbringing. So it just became a full circle to lead an organization that I felt like was so heartwarming and a really pivotal moment in my journey. So, oh my gosh, I didn't expect to get so emotional. But I do feel really blessed to be in such an amazing profession and to also be a leader to help others who were once in my position. And yeah, that is my story. Thank you.
All right, keep it going for Beatty, everybody. All right, we have one last storyteller, and it is a joy and honor to welcome her up to the stage to share her journey as well. And I also want to give it up for yourselves. Thank you for being a great audience and for being here for them. And let's hear it for all the storytellers so far, because I think they're all doing an amazing job and are feeling so relieved to be done telling their story, except for one more. So, so here she is. Please welcome Diana Vizcarra. Come on up.
Thank you.
Just make sure he's good. Yeah. Get a little closer.
Perfect. All right. So my name's Diana Vizcarra, and I was not supposed to be here. That rings true to a lot of different points in my life, from birth to even today. But I'm a proud immigrant from El Salvador. I immigrated here at a young age, and truly back then, I never realized how my life would turn in so many different directions. My dad would tell me when I was young, you know, it would be so nice if you could learn a second language, like your cousins do when they go in the summer to the United States. And at that point, I thought, oh, a second language, not a career, not a university, a college, but a second language. I'm like, okay, that's great. But suddenly, everything shifted in our life. A civil war does not come in silence. And that completely shifted our entire life. My parents had to escape from death threats and find a safer environment for our entire family. And so that led us to the United States. Suddenly we were here. We no longer had to dream about it. So now what? That dream was checked off the list, right? Then, you know, after a lot of tears and a lot of sleepless nights, as you can see, I learned how to speak English. My dad later would find a second job to work as a courier. And he would take me on his rides from time to time. And driving through St. Mary's College, some of you may know that it looks like a church, he would say, that would be so cool if you could go to school there at one point. It'd be so nice. And I'm like, school there. At the time, that seemed like a big dream because, first of all, I didn't even know what I wanted to be at that point. And we also didn't even know what St. Mary's had to offer. For all we knew, it could have been a convent, which probably could have aligned with my dad's dreams as well. But thankfully, you know, and that's crazy about manifestation as well, because he would think about this every single day as he drove by that school. Like, I hope, and it's a private school, right? He's over here working 2 jobs. So to think, I wish you'd go there at one point. And I say that about manifestation because when I was in high school, all my high school years, I would change what I wanted to be almost every month. So it was never straight to me to think, oh, I would become a nurse someday. And when I was getting ready to apply for school, I looked at all the different schools across the country from here, from California to New York. So in the end, I applied to 2, and I ended up with 2 acceptance letters. And small or full circle moment, I would say, I ended up getting accepted into a nursing program at St. Mary's College for their 2+2 program, where I did my undergrad there and then went to Samuel Merritt to finish my BSN. And I vividly remember walking across the stage as I graduated from Samuel Merritt, where a fire just started inside of me. There was a voice that said, keep going. There was that push to say, keep going, as I walked across the stage. And I don't know if it was the crowd, the environment, the music, or my sister-in-law just screaming her head off, cheering me on in the corner of the room, where I could just hear her in the whole auditorium. But that stuck with me, because when I got my first job, and I worked as a brand new nurse from my first year, that voice never went away. And so I said, okay, well, if I go back to school now, is probably a good idea, because if I don't, then who knows when I'll go back to school, which actually rings true today, because I feel like I'm playing double dutch, trying to figure out the next best timing to get my DMP. Or maybe it's just E40 playing in my head, right? But at the time, I said, okay, well, the dream is fulfilled when I became a nurse and got a BSN. Now what? You know, my parents didn't really dream much further than that for me. It's like, go to college, graduate, get a job. And so then I said, okay, well, what am I gonna do with a master's program? Or with a master's degree? What is that gonna do for me? And I'll tell you that, no one had UCSF on their bingo card for me, not even myself, right? And when I looked at the different programs, it really stuck out. And so I said, I have nothing to lose. I might as well apply. I might not even get in, so there you go. But I did. And that acceptance letter and the experience here completely changed my entire career. I felt to say that at some point I did want to become a doctor, but my parents said, well, we can't afford that. So if you want to do that, we can pay for nursing school, and then you can go back and become a doctor if you want, and you can pay for it yourself. And I said, you got a deal. That sounded like a no-brainer to me. But you know what? I became a nurse. Like, UCSF changed my whole perspective around that in the nursing career, where I can confidently say, I love being a nurse and I would never do something else. You have so many options, and it's like you can be a different type of nurse every decade. And so it's amazing. But all that to say that, I think about my dad and all the different pivotal moments, right, that maybe he's manifested my whole life. And so I'm really grateful to him. But I think about him and him thinking of that little girl, that he really just wanted that little girl to learn a second language. And so I think about all the different rooms I've been able to walk in, the boardrooms, the conferences, the stages, even here being with you today. And it's just a true pleasure and honor. And so I invite you to think about your dreams, because the one dream you may have is probably the starting point of many things you've done in your life. And so next time, consider when you ask a child, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe ask them, how many things do you want to be when you grow up? Because we are capable of doing so much in this lifetime, and our life and our trajectory changes so much. Thank you.
All right, that was Diana Vizcarra. Keep it going for Diana. And let's bring back all the storytellers. Let's have a final curtain call for all of our storytellers. While they are coming, I just want to give some thanks and appreciation. Thank you to John McCoy. Thank you from the Alumni Relations team. Thank you, Rachel Patrick from the Special Events team. And thank you everybody who made today possible. Give it up for everybody that helped to do this. And stand in front of the thing. Give it up also for all of our storytellers today. Okay, stay there for a second. My name is Corey Rosen. You guys have been a great audience. Thank you so much. And just a reminder that immediately following this, there is a reception. So food and drinks right in the lobby, right outside. So please stick around for a few minutes. Meet somebody, talk to one of our storytellers. And thank you again for being a part of this day and this program. Thank you again. Good night.